Everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach, and see if you can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. Free agency is still happening. There have been major moves, but one major move, even though it's a one-year deal, I want to say minimum deal, is that Kyler Murray is now with the Minnesota Vikings, Austin.
Yeah, this is something that does not shock me. We knew that the Vikings were going to add a QB, especially after the disappointing season that J.J. McCarthy had, partially because of injuries, but also partially because of kind of just how he played. I do think that the Vikings' expectations are higher this upcoming season, and I'm extremely excited to see how the Kevin O'Connell offense looks like with Kyler in it.
Sorry?
I said I'm excited to look how the Kevin O'Connell-led offense looks with Kyler in it.
Yeah, it is a good point, and something we'll have to see because I do think there's some added pressure with Kevin O'Connell with this Kyler Murray move, given just how well the Sam Darnold experiment went, and then the fall off with what is his name? JJ McCarthy. So I am curious what O'Connell does as well as Murray, because O'Connell I think is a great offensive mind. It's just he never really worked with a young quarterback as the starter to start with. Because J.J. McCarthy was that first experiment. Yes, he had Josh Dobbs. He had other quarterbacks in, but that was in a backup role. The starter was Kirk Cousins. So I am curious how O'Connell works with Murray to get the best out of him and to get that vision of what you're talking about with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I believe that the Vikings are going to be a good team this year. I really do. Even though they lost Jalen Nailor, which I think is an underrated signing by the Raiders, I'm interested to see how the Raiders team looks heading into the season. But I truly believe that Kevin O'Connell is a top 5 offensive coach in the league, and I believe he'll get a lot out of Kyler. Truly, what I think will determine Kyler's performance, he struggled with Marvin Harrison Jr. You cannot struggle with Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson and him have to have a good connection for this team to be good, and I believe they will, but that's waiting to be seen.
Another thing that I would say is the offensive line and what the Vikings do to help Kyler Murray. Yes, Kyler Murray does have the mobility to avoid sacks, but I think the offense is well designed and they need to stay in rhythm. So I am interested what Kyler Murray does, because as he's gotten older, when he was younger and first new to the league, he had DeAndre Hopkins and they worked well together. You bring in a young guy like Marvin Harrison, doesn't exactly work with Kyler Murray. And absolutely right, you have to keep Justin Jefferson happy. I think he did really well with the J.J. McCarthy situation and trying to help McCarthy. But Jefferson wants to have a great season, and I think he's going to work with Kyler Murray, but Murray has to put in the work as well, focusing on the offense and finding ways to get Jefferson the ball.
Yeah, I truly believe that the Vikings are a team that can have success this upcoming year, but you're right. Offensive line help is absolutely necessary. Even with Kyler's mobility, you don't want Kyler just to run. Maybe some design run plays, especially on the goal line. Maybe he'll be able to scramble for some yards, but you don't want his first thought to be okay, I have to scramble immediately. I think it's more important for them to try to get him to settle down and be a pocket passer in some instances because that will get the most out of this offense. I think that's part of the problem with the Cardinals is they rely too much on his legs, and while he's a great runner, we see this with Lamar. Lamar's in his offense is better when he's throwing the ball better. When he's throwing the ball for more touchdowns. Lamar's best offensive season is when he threw for 40-plus touchdowns. I think that while Lamar's a great rusher, and there should be some designed run plays for Kyler. I'm not saying there shouldn't be, but I think there should be less run plays that aren't designed run plays, meaning that if you can keep him in the pocket, that's good for the Vikings because it will not only keep Kyler healthier, but also it'll hopefully increase his confidence in his arm and in turn his production.
Another part of him not running as much is the injuries and the wear and tear that comes from that. Lamar Jackson is someone that has dealt with injuries when just running and taking those hits as a runner because you're not in the pocket anymore. You're a regular player running the ball, and Kyler Murray has his size that is an issue for him, and he's dealt with injuries a lot in the past. So that's another thing when you look at last year and why it was so bad for the Vikings. Quarterback was a problem, but also each of those quarterbacks were under suffered injuries with J.J. McCarthy, then Carson Wentz, and then McCarthy again. So that is something they were constantly dealing with throughout the season, and that's something to where if you want it to work with Kyler Murray, you have to make sure he stays on the field.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Where do you kind of put the Vikings in the pecking order of the NFC now? Do you think they're a playoff team? They did go 9-8 with their poor QB play. I still like their defense. I think their defense will be very good this season. But where do you put them in the pecking order for the conference?
I think I think they're a playoff competitive team. I think they will be in playoff talks. It's just I don't think Kyler Murray will be Sam Darnold. I think that's an unrealistic expectation.
I don't think that he needs to be, though. I mean, they went 9-8. Brian Flores is still the DC. That's important. If he had left, we'd have a different conversation. But I think this team is probably an 11-win team. I think they could win 2 more games with Kyler being their QB over the assortment of QBs they've had this previous season, whether it was Carson Wentz, J.J. McCarthy, and the other guys that they had. I think that the fact that they won 9 games, I think they can win 11 games this year and be a 5 or 6 seed. I don't know if that wins them the division because they have a lot of good teams in their division, but I would not be shocked if they won 11 games.
I wouldn't be shocked either. I think a lot of it, too, is kind of the strength of the NFC right now. You have the Seattle Seahawks. The Eagles had a down year, but I think they're gearing back up. Bears, Packers, like just that division is going to be tough for the Vikings. So I think that's going to cause some.
But it's going to be tough, I think, for everybody in the division.
Yeah, it's just the Vikings. It's hard to like. I think they'll be a very good team. I think it's getting comparable to the West in the NBA, where it's like, okay, you're an 8 seed. You're still a great team. It's just you're in a stacked conference.
Yeah, I agree.
So it will be interesting to see what the Vikings do with Kyler Murray, and I do think there is some pressure just given how well Sam Darnold did with the Vikings 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to win 14 games, but I think they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive. I think it's hard to say playoffs given just it's going to come down to, I think, a couple key matchups, and I
think the NFC has really grown in competitiveness throughout the conference in the past year or so. I think that there's a ton of teams I could see making the playoffs this year in the NFC, which really hurts for teams that are trying to get better. I think that if you told me that there were 4 NFC North teams in the playoffs next year, I would not be shocked.
Yeah, I agree with that because they're so good, and if they weren't in the same division, they probably would be. They'd have a higher chance of doing it.
It makes it hard. I mean, between the NFC West and NFC North, you have 7 teams right there that I think are playoff caliber, which is a problem because there's 3 other divisions. Or no, 2 other divisions. 2 other divisions.
Yeah. So yeah, and a lot of those teams are trying to get better as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. And that's why the Vikings make this move, because they're trying to compete now.
Yeah.
All right. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.